Welcome to Page1, the award-winning show for writers with the reader in mind.
That draws the reader along, just like fiction.
Here's your host and producer, Zita Christian.
Hi everyone, welcome to Page 1. I'm Zita Christian. My guest tonight is a local filmmaker. He's making movies with a message for teens. Please welcome Ryan Kondracki.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is great. In fact, I guess to be more accurate, I would say welcome back, since
Yes.
you've been on the show before. Well, not Page 1, you were on Full Bloom
Yep.
a number of years ago, and I remember that was one of our popular shows. I got a lot of feedback on that. For that show, you were with some fellow friends and business colleagues, and you were filming ghosts, which I found fascinating. And now I look at
Yep.
what you're doing now, and you're still filming, but there's a whole different subject matter, a bigger scale. So I do want to get into that, and I'm hoping that the influence of the ghosts is in there somewhere. So I know that that you have a company of your own called Three View Films. Tell me
Yes.
about Three View Films.
In 2011, I wanted to do a short film, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I lost a good friend in 2010 due to drinking and driving. The way I found out, my sister and I were sitting on the porch, and we're talking about kids who were killed in accidents, and a girl who was murdered at the bank. And then she was looking through the obituaries, and she was like, well, how about this girl? She's 21 years old. And I looked at the photo, and it was my good friend Elizabeth, and I pretty much collapsed on the floor there, and my sister had to pick me up, and it was, I just got done talking to her probably about 2 days ago. She was looking forward to going to dinner, and she wanted to talk about all the success I was going on, and she was interested also in the paranormal as well and what was happening, and lo and behold, she was telling all her friends that she was looking forward to going to dinner with me to talk, and I guess I got to wait for that dinner with her.
Oh, Matt, I'm sorry. That's awfully hard to lose a friend, and especially the surprise element certainly doesn't make it any easier. I'm sorry. I don't know if glad is the right word, but it's good to know that that you can look at that experience and make something of it, because I can see now, I didn't know that story before, but I can see now how that would have influenced you to make the two films that you've made. Tell us about those two films.
Well, like I said, in 2011, I wanted to make a film that was going to show kids the danger of drinking and driving.
Right.
So it was a good friend of mine, Sadie. We were at Subway where she works, and we're sitting there like, well, what can we do? And I was like, what about a film on teen drinking and driving? She was like, I like it. I was like, let me go home and think about it. And for some reason, I was in my room thinking, and my mom said something, and I said, sorry, Mom. And it just caught on to it. I'm just like, that's the title. Sorry, Mom, I won't be coming home. That is a hard-hitting title that is going to impact family, friends, relatives when they watch it.
Yeah.
And so I got together. This one didn't have no script. I got a couple friends together. Sadie's daughter played one of the characters. My friend Peggy's daughter, Patricia, played the girl who went through the window, was pronounced dead on the scene. And I figured, I watched a lot of movies, and I was an extra in the Town with Ben Affleck and Jeremy Renner, which was really cool. Great experience.
Yeah, bad.
And when I was there, I wasn't there to... I was there to do what they wanted me to do, but I was watching everything that was going on. I watched the director, producer, the camera work, the lighting. I just so fascinating when I was like, I want to do this. I want to give this a shot. So that's when we came up with the title, Sorry, Mom. And I was like, well, okay, I need a funeral car, I need a fire department, I need to really get this going. So I went to Elite Stevens Funeral Home, great guys, Elite Stevens in Enfield. I sat down with the son, and I pitched the idea to them. It's like, hey, listen, I'm doing a teen drinking and driving film, and I was wondering, can we use your hearse? Would you be willing to do the hearse? I said, absolutely. He's like, this is a great film. So Elite Stevens got involved, and then they gave me Elm Cap Industries of Hartford, or West Hartford. Forgive me if it's Hartford or West Hartford, but who does all the bolts and the burial? Yeah. They got involved as well. And then I went to the St. Patrick's Church. I talked to them about using St. Patrick's Cemetery, and they give us the whole cemetery But the day of the filming, they called me and said, hey, there's a funeral. Do you mind holding it back? And we set it back a little bit because respect for people. And we made sure we did not film while they saying goodbye to their relatives. And once they're finally gone, that's when we got on set and we did what we did. And then I wanted to do the most realistic crash that you could possibly think of. I didn't know where to do it. I talked to Stickley's parking lot in Enfield. I went in, talked to the manager, and introduced what I was doing. Tell him
where was that?
Stickley's parking lot in Enfield.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
So I went up there and talked to them, and they said, yeah, you have our property. You can use whatever you want. Let us know the day you're coming. We'll give you power and everything. It was great. And then I had a friend who was at the funeral scene who knew the chief of the North Thompson Fire Department. And the other guy, Dave Lapanese, he called me and said, hey, I heard about your film. Can you come in and tell us more about it? So I went in there, and I was in a meeting for a good half hour. I pitched the idea to him. He's like, well, let me talk to the chief. Not even within 5 minutes, I got out of the building. I got a phone call, and the chief said he approves.
Matt, that's great. Not only is it good for you as a filmmaker because this is something you wanted to do, you had a personal reason for wanting to do it, and the roadblocks were removed. I think it also speaks volumes about the fact that people want to help with the subject of teen drinking and driving.
Yep.
I think it's a good thing to note, too, that when someone is pursuing a creative project like this, really to remember that people do want to help. And you asked. I mean, you didn't know these people ahead of time. You asked, explained your project.
It was just like everything was just falling in place. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. It was just like, they're like, what do you want us to do? When do you need us? They said, we'll bring the Jaws to life. And my other obstacle was I need a car now to put into the tree. And Dave goes, oh, let me call Levier's, and they'll give you a car. So I went down there. What is that? Levier's Auto Recycling in
okay.
Somers, Connecticut. I went down there. I told them who I was again. They're like, go in the yard, look anything you want, pick the car you want, let us know, and we'll bring it to the set.
And this is a car that's already crashed.
Yes.
I mean, this is okay. I get it.
And then we wanted the ambulance. We know ambulances are always busy. They wanted money, so we looked at a different way. Believe it or not, Levier's had they had an ambulance, and they brought it to the set. So we had an ambulance on the set that was
nice.
It was a prop, but it was real.
It served a purpose.
Yeah.
And that's funny because when you're doing something creative like that, you find ways to say, okay, it doesn't have to be moving. We'll give the idea of movement and have it sit here. And there's so many ways around it. That's good to know. So that was the one. Sorry, Mom, I'm not coming home.
Yep.
Now there's a second film.
Yep, that movie's called Things Unseen.
Things Unseen. Tell me about that one.
This one's a more hard-hitting. This one's about teen bullying and teen suicide, which is huge in the United States of America. I wanted to show the reality of kids being bullied in school. What I did when this film was, I took a girl who was very popular. She had friends, everybody loved her, and she was going after the star guy, the star quarterback of the football. And it was a setup between her and her friend Amy, who set her up. She went on a date, and Brad tried doing stuff in the car, and she said no, and she got out of the car, and he called Amy up on the phone and said, she's such she's the H word, and the next day in school she knew nothing about this. She was going to school, and everybody was calling her the H word, the S word, and she didn't know what was going on. And her best friend, who came up to her and said, I can't believe you did this, and she's like, what do you mean? She was like, I can't believe you slept with Brad. She was like, no, it's not true. He tried raping me in the car. And she confronted Brad, and it just goes downhill from there.
So this is her reputation. She starts out like on top of the world, and now something happens. Her reputation is ruined, and then things kind of spiral downward.
Yep. And we wanted to show stuff that happens at people's in the homes. A lot of people who these kids are being bullied or they do commit suicide, they don't see what is going on. They just see what is there. I played the father. His name is Rick. And my wife died at a very young age of cancer. My daughter was 10 years old at the time. And I got too busy into my work. I was a cop, and work was just always constantly. And I was with this girl, Shelly. She was on my mind constantly. And I wasn't seeing what's going on with my daughter. I didn't see it. And when I tried to help her, it was to the point where it was too late. I was more focused on my goals, my career as a father, trying to help my daughter, and the marriage of Shelly. I proposed to her, and my daughter and her don't get along at all. They hate each other.
Matt, it just occurs to me, and I don't mean to have to interrupt you, but I just want to be really clear, just in case people are tuning in right now, this didn't really happen to Matt. He's talking about his role in a movie that he wrote. He's this really nice guy, but this is the story in the movie, and this is what leads to the depression and the emotional downfall and the eventual bullying and the.
She has no help at home because her father's too concentrated on his work.
He's not there. Yeah.
And when people will watch the film, they're going to see that I am an a-hole because I treat my daughter like a roll call because it's just so into my mind. I'm a cop all the day and I can't turn it off. And you'll see in the film, she was like, you got to stop treating me like a roll call. I'm your daughter. And then at that point, I tried to get involved. I tried to help her. It's just at that point, it's pretty much too late due to the damage at school.
So this is a young woman who appears to have everything, and then when things go wrong at school, she turns for support at home, but the support at home isn't there.
Right.
Now she eventually.
Her friends, a lot of her friends turn on her, and Amy and her crew, they pick on her every day. They pour water on her. They call her nasty words, and then. They go to her friend Kelly invites her to her party, and not knowing Amy was going to be there, her Nicole, who played by Basima, she's the main actor. They go to the party, and Amy pretty much knocks her out and gives her a nice big black eye. And the next day, the father sees it, and he tries talking to her, and it's just at that point where it's too late.
And that sort of thing happens all too often. It's just all too often. So I want to come back to that. I want to come back to that in a minute because I have some other questions that I want to ask about your experience in making the films. But business, I want to get the business aspects of things first, like your organization. So you've got 3View Films.
Yep.
And you've made these 2 movies from there. But I understand that just recently you have partnered with another film company, Merit Films. Now tell me about Merit Films and how did all that come about? What is it?
When I was filming Sorry Mom, the guy, Rob Muganga, that's a guy who owns Merit Films, he was actually in Enfield. He rented a studio and he was making a movie called No Control. And this movie was going to go to Hollywood. And he had, The Reminder did a beautiful article on him, and I contacted him, and he invited me to come down and do a role, which was my first time acting, so obviously I didn't get it. But I made great friendships with him. The day of the car accident, I invited him, his crew down, his wife, to come check out, see what I'm doing. And he came down.
He did?
Yep. He was so impressed how it was well organized with the fire department and the special effects with the girls through the window and on the ground. And this is a funny story is we started around probably like 8 o'clock. There's maybe about like 100 people watching.
Yeah.
By the time we were done around like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, there was like 300 people.
Oh my gosh.
Because the accident was so real. The fire trucks were coming down, and the car was in a tree, and the girl was hanging out the window. Everybody thought it was so real. The town of Enfield, the police department, they knew ahead of time. And they said they got 5 calls, and they said, no, it's a filming, don't worry, nobody died.
Oh my
because
gosh.
the next day, the car was cut in half because they brought the body out. And there was blood all over the car, and people were driving by, and they were like, oh my God, what happened? And the police, don't worry, it's just a film. So, Rob, we grew a friendship from there. I helped him a couple of movies. No Control, I played security guard. I put one of the main actors through a table, which was cool. Yeah.
So this whole idea now through 3View Films, you're doing your own, but through Merit Films, you're now part of something larger.
Yes.
So much larger. And I know because I looked on the website for Merit Films, and the purpose is to make the indie films.
Yep.
So tell me, because I'm sure there are going to be people in the audience who don't know, what's the difference between what is an indie film and what's the difference between an indie film and a film that is not an indie film?
Indie films are pretty much people getting together with friends or professional writers, and they want to make a movie. They come up with a plot, they have the writer, they take the plot, they have the writer write it, then they do the casting, then they do the table read, and then they do the filming. The difference between indie and studio is Hollywood, the movie's paid for outright. They have $200 million paid for the movies to do everything. Us indie people, we have to get the money, we have to get the sponsors, we have to get the locations, we have to do all the backbone work, which Hollywood just gives it to them when it's time to come film.
So the equivalent, like a lot of my friends were writers, so the equivalent would be either being published by one of the big standard publishing houses or self-publishing or something like that. Okay, so I know you mentioned a little while ago that you had a role as an extra in the Ben Affleck movie, The Town. So tell me a little about that. How did you get the job, and what was it like?
I do Boston Casting. I'm on there once in a while, and they send me roles. They're looking for extras. And at the time, I was free. I sent my headshot, and they said, okay, go to Mohegan Sun. So I went down there. It was very cool. It was Hollywood. My first time ever seeing a Hollywood filming. They actually put me behind Ben Affleck through the whole movie. It was great. I sat behind him. Jeremy Renner, I couldn't think of who he was at the time. I kept looking at him like, I know you. Yeah. I can't think of who you are. And he was from The Hurt Locker. I was like, that's who you were.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they didn't get to use any of that scenes. They pretty much did. It went to the B shots.
Yeah, it happens.
But it was great, though. I actually got to I had a nice talk with Ben Affleck. He was on the phone, and I accidentally bumped him. And I said, I apologize. He's like, oh, no, don't worry. And I told him this was my first time doing this. We had a quick conversation, and then he introduced me to Jeremy Renner. It was so cool.
That is cool. And, that brings up something I want to ask about, too. So this was your experience, and, first time acting with, a serious, major, Hollywood studio production. And you're working on indie films. How do you get actors? How does that work?
What we do, I use NewEnglandFilm.com. They have a classified for actors. You put non-union only, because non-union is volunteer. And you put the role of the movie. And you say who you're looking for, and the people send you headshots and their resume, and out of those you pick the best ones who will fit that character, and then you send them a short clip, and they come to a casting.
Okay, so they know in advance that it's
Yes.
an indie film. They know that they're volunteering.
Yep.
So why are they doing it? I think I know that
a lot of people. That's how you get your stardom, is from indie films. They actually, when we do films, we put them on IMDb, Internet Movie Database.
Yep.
They get their names on there. They get movie credits. They get a nice copy of the DVD, and they can show their friends, their family, whoever. And when they search up their names gonna come under that title. So let's say Hollywood was interested in it, that movie went big.
When you're looking for an actor, and I just want to mention too, you used the word earlier when you were talking about the woman who's the lead in one of your movies, and you referred to her as the actor. And it's not actor, actress. It's actor, correct? That is what they all call actor.
When you're on set, you call them actors. But as a producer and when you're talking to a director, we say actors.
Okay. I didn't know that. So when you are looking to cast someone, what is it that you're looking for in the actor, and what's the level of commitment that person has to make?
Rob, who I work with all the time, he knows what I'm looking for. He knows what he wants to see in the actor and actresses. He's been in Hollywood for 20 years, and he knows to pick the right person. So, and then when we're done, we actually videotape the audition, and we go back and watch it, because you don't see something that the camera.
Oh
got.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we get together as a team and a family, and we pick the right people for the role.
So in terms of right people, sometimes it's a matter of age or look,
yes,
or ethnicity or gender.
If you're casting like a 19-year-old, and there's 19-year-olds who do audition and they're just not right. They don't mean they're not great actors, but they're just not right for that role. Then you have maybe like a 21 and 22 who can just fit that 19-year-old age. Then that's great.
So do the people who audition, do you think, is it necessary for them to have had a lot of experience? Like, where do you start?
There was we had the girl named Amanda who played Kelly. This was her first acting gig. She's a model. She does modeling. Mm-hmm. And this was her first time acting, and she did pretty good to play that role as Kelly.
Okay. So let me go to one other thing then. Now, you mentioned that you played the dad, Rick, in one of your own movies, but I know that you also directed.
Yes.
So, how do you direct yourself, and who's behind in the camera? Who's looking through the camera, looking at you? How do you do that?
On this one, for Things Unseen, we had a guy named Nick. This was his first filming. He did an amazing job with the camera angles. And then Rob, he's our sound guy. He knows sound very well, and he's also a producer as well. And he will direct me or the actresses who I'm working with in the right direction. And then I go back and I watch playback, and I'm saying, maybe we should do this better. And they'll tell me to change my attitude. Like when I was playing Rick, I had to get in that a-hole mode. I had to be like that, just that strict guy who you want to hate. And Rob said I did pretty good. Rob is trying to get me into acting more. He wants me to become an actor.
What is Rob's last name?
Lamanga.
Okay. And are you hard on yourself when you go back and look at your work?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, it is so weird seeing yourself on the movie screen. It's just like, okay, you know, do I look good? Was I right for the part? And then, you know, your friends watching, you're just like, am I good?
Yeah. Yeah,
it's nerve-wracking.
And then after a while, you just have to forget about it.
Yep, it's you just forget this camera is here.
Yeah, and you're somebody else
Yep.
for that time period. So you have acted, you have directed, and you've done producing, because obviously with 3View Films, you've also produced. So when you look at those three big roles on a personal level, do you have a favorite?
I have to say acting, because when I was young, I used to do a lot of role playing. And it was just, I love being somebody different. I love being that person, or the guy who gets the girl, or who saves that person. I love that.
Now that brings me to something too. Then, so then there's what you just mentioned. There's a heroic quality to the films. So when you're looking at a film, is the ending? Certainly in a romance novel, there's the HEA, the happily ever after, or hopeful ever after.
Yes.
But is there a note of hope? Is there an uplifting, or are they more tragic at the end?
And Things Unseen, we went the tragic way. I'm not going to ruin it, but it's just, let's just say the father didn't do his job like he was supposed to.
Okay. Too late.
Yep. And then also, Sorry Mom Won't Be Coming Home, when the youngest daughter, who was, they went to a party and they were drinking heavily. The older sister didn't acknowledge it because she was drunk too. She had the younger sister drive, and on the way driving, the younger sister's driving, the older sister's kind of passed out, and you hear the cell phone ring. So she picks it up, texting and driving, does not mix, and drinking as well.
Oh, jeez.
Crash into a tree, and she goes through the window, and her face is completely gone, and her sister gets ejected.
You know, Matt, I know that you know the audience. You had mentioned about that you wanted to inspire kids. I imagine the parents are inspired by this also. So, who sees the films? How do you get the films to students? When
we're doing Sorry Mom Will Be Coming Home, we were in the Reminder Journal Choir, Fox 61 News, Channel 3 News did a cover on the crash scene, so it was already pretty good at getting us publicity. And when we're all said and done, we did a huge premiere at Nantucket College. It was probably about 80 people showed up.
Oh, nice.
And when the movie was done, it was a standing ovation. It was just like thrilling.
Congratulations.
You did this, and you're getting people. And then we had Q&As, and one guy stood up and said, he goes, I've seen independent films. He's like, I have to say, this is one of the most amazing films I have ever seen. It is harsh, in-your-face reality. Drinking and driving does not mix. Then we showed Enfield High School. The kids loved it. And then I went to Stafford Springs. We showed them. At the end of it, 250 kids just cheered, standing ovation. It was just the most amazing feeling. There was people laughing. They were loving the film, and there was also a lot of tears. A couple people had to leave because they lost people. And the best thing about Stafford Springs is they had the guidance counselors on hand if anybody had to leave.
Wow, they really planned ahead.
Oh, they planned 100% ahead, and it was amazing being at Stafford Springs. And it was actually the night of the prom. And when everybody went to the prom that night, no DUIs.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, talk about having an impact.
I did not know. On the way home, my friend called me. She's like, you know what you just did? I was like, what? He's like, you just left Stafford. I was like, yeah. Like, my daughter just called me. She was like, the teachers are letting the students call their parents for ride homes after your film. I was just like, wow, that was a huge impact.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That, I think everybody in this world wants to make a difference. You did. Where can people see the film now? How does that work?
Right now, I'm actually re-editing Sorry Mom. I'm making it nice HD quality. I'm taking out a couple scenes that didn't need to be in there, and I'm making it smooth, nice. But once it's done, it's going to be on YouTube.
Oh, nice. Okay. So I want to ask, speaking of YouTube, tell me, because I know the answer to this. So tell me about the next project here for 3View Films.
Well, right now, as I learned so much from Rob, who took me under his wing about lighting, sound, producing, directing, I wanted to wait for a while to make a paranormal series. I wanted to do something different than you see on TV. I wanted to make it different. I wanted to make people get involved. They love it. I put a casting on New England Films. I'm looking for a couple people who are interested in the paranormal, who know their stuff. And I'm going to be doing a paranormal YouTube series. It's going to do a lot about history It's going to be about real stories from the clients. It's going to be about investigations with real facts, real proof, real evidence. Nothing you see on TV is going to be on this on my show. It's going to be all real. You're not going to sit there and be like, well, did they fake that? Like, no, not at all. This is 100% real. And the best thing is, when we're done going over the evidence, we're going to leave it to the audience to decide, do we have enough evidence to tell this client that their location or place is haunted?
You know you're going to have skeptics. I mean,
of course,
always.
And
of course. And there were skeptics, you know, when you were on the Full Bloom show a number of years ago. But I got a lot of comments on that, and I would say 99% of them, people believe that there is something else out there. So I think that's going to be
And that's what we want to do.
successful.
We want to show this is real. Like, some of the EVPs you hear on the TV shows, you sit there like, what are they saying? You know, but they keep playing over and over. It goes in your head like, oh, that's what it's saying. We will not give any kind of things if we cannot make it out. If it's full, like if we say, who are you? And a girl says, I'm Amy, or I'm a female. That's an intelligent EVP. You have the woman.
What's
talking,
EVP?
Electronic Voice Phenomenon.
Okay.
And you have an intelligent conversation with the spirit right then and there. She's answering your questions. That is enough to give to the client to say, hey, this is what we caught. And this is, you'll hear it as clear as day. But we will not give any static.
And you know, this being New England.
Oh, yes, a lot of...
Oh, yeah.
I've already talked to a couple of people who are
You're going to have a
interested.
waiting list. And Matt, I have to tell you, we're getting the signal that we're out of time. And this was fascinating.
Thank you for having me again.
I'm so glad
It
you
was
came
great.
back. So I do want to give you the formal thank you, Matthew Ryan Kondracki, for people who are watching that name, Matthew Ryan Kondracki, 3View Films and Merit Films. I also want to thank my crew tonight, and I have a very special thank you tonight because Jim Perry is directing, Mary Lou Wall is on graphics, and Darren Williams is shadowing. And all of this is because Ron and Sharon Therio are not able to be with us tonight. Ron is having some surgery. Ron, we wish you well. We hope you get better fast. We miss you. I also want to thank you in the viewing audience. I love to close this show with the words of the fantasy writer Ursula Le Guin, who said, "There have been civilizations that did not use the wheel, but there have been no civilizations that did not tell stories." So find your story, find a way to tell it, and do join us again next time. Thank you.
Food for the crew and guests is provided by Manchester Grill of Manchester, Connecticut, and Angelo's Restaurant of Glastonbury, Connecticut. We welcome your comments and suggestions. Please email Zita at zitatv.com or write to Zita Christian, Page1 TV, P.O. Box 1515, Manchester, Connecticut 06045-1515. You can watch this and other episodes of Page 1 on youtube.com/Zita3x3.